Thank you, Alvaro. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to take this opportunity to sort of set the stage for Kelly Semrau, who has some great messages for you about some really inspiring work that S.C. Johnson is doing. Could we get my slides up from this computer, please? Wonderful. I'd like to reflect back to about 1 year ago, where at Rio'2013, and together with the consultancy Sustainability, GlobeScan, which is a global research consultancy and strategic advisory firm, launched what we called the Regeneration Roadmap, which was really born out of a sense of optimism colored with pessimism and frustration that the sustainability agenda had really come to a sort of a turning point. And we viewed 2012, of course, the 20th anniversary of Rio, the 40th anniversary of Stockholm, the 25th anniversary of Our Common Future, and also GlobeScan's 25th anniversary as an organization together with sustainability. And we felt it was important to make a contribution to the conversation in a way that would help scale and accelerate private sector leadership on the sustainability agenda. So we engaged in a series of 6 global salons, deep conversations around the world in Beijing and Shanghai and San Francisco and London and elsewhere. We conducted 2 expert surveys of more than 1,000 sustainability practitioners around the world. We conducted a number of public opinion and consumer polls. And we also did in-depth interviews for video with 20 sustainability pioneers who were really quite active in the 80s and 90s to get their views on what's next. So for us, it really was a watershed moment, and we thought we had to create a movement. And S.C. Johnson was instrumental in allowing this to happen, in taking on a presenting sponsorship role together with BMW. So we pulled together an amazing array of organizations that you see on your screen, again led by S.C. Johnson and BMW, and we collaborated on what turned out to be a fantastic initiative over 18 months, and we were about to release the final results in June. I want to share with you some key findings from this process because I think they're inspiring, but they should also weigh on all of us in this room in terms of the importance of the sustainability agenda and private sector leadership. What we find is essentially sustainability experts worldwide, as well as the global public, agree that something's deeply wrong, that systems are broken. They believe that minor changes are working within existing systems, and by that I mean financial, social, and so forth, is not going to be sufficient to avert what many experts are predicting to be a disastrous future. So we need some kind of form or some kind of change. And what we've also found, though, is that there's been a huge lack of leadership, particularly from the public sector, from government on this agenda, in that they just have not been able to lead. So when we ask sustainability experts worldwide, what are the most important barriers to making progress on sustainability, the lack of political will comes up. Vested interest in current approaches and systems is the second most often cited problem. What experts don't think are huge problems is the lack of technology or a lack of expertise or even a lack of action by the private sector. It's more around political will. And when we compare perspectives among experts on who they think should really lead the agenda versus how well different types of organizations have performed, we still see high expectations of government that they should lead, but very poor perceived performance. Private sector also seen as potentially very powerful in this agenda, and middling performance. Where we see a lot of potential is around collaborations, and much like the Regeneration Roadmap, where we brought together all kinds of different organizations. So there's opportunity in that frame, but it needs to be collaborative in many ways. And so what we're really trying to do is map a route forward here to provide some guidance. And in terms of the private sector, there is a foundation of trust established, that is, sustainability experts believe, and they trust the private sector can play a stronger role in leading accelerated progress on sustainable development over the next few years. We view that this immediate time frame between now and 2020 is absolutely crucial. We acknowledge and appreciate a whole breadth of great work that's been done by WBCSD and others on Vision 2050. But we think in order for those initiatives to succeed, and many of the work that we're all doing here collectively to succeed, we need to see some dramatic changes over the next few years. And we think it very much involves systems change rather than ongoing incremental improvement, largely done within voluntary initiatives by the private sector. So there's a foundation of trust. So there's something to build on for the private sector here, and that there's a license to be bold on some of these things. Supplier demand, and I think that's a lot of the conversation that we're going to have here from the brand perspective. When we ask experts, what is key? Do we need a greater supply of sustainable options from companies, or do we need greater consumer demand? And people are split. Of course, we need both, but there is a greater tendency towards the need for demand. And so there I see an opportunity to unite people working on the sustainability agenda along with marketing experts and brand experts and all of the know-how and access to budgets that the brand folks have within major corporations. An opportunity to collaborate. And as we'll talk more in the breakout session this afternoon that Kelly will join us for on consumer attitudes, we've identified a new group of consumers that we think provide the foundation for really accelerating. There is a new group of people around the world, but particularly prominent in developing countries, who not only have very material aspirations, but they have deeply embedded sustainability values. So it's going to be about capturing the momentum that is latent within that group, and it's about making sure that they don't lose their sustainability agendas. So it'll be about meeting people as people, not marketing green, but really talking about values and quality of life and personal things. And I'm sure everyone has more ideas that will surface during this conference. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kelly Semrau, Chief Sustainability Officer of SC Johnson, who will share her unique perspective from a company that's really been doing this for more than a century, and that sustainability is really part of SCJ's DNA. And we're very thankful to have them here and also as partners in the Regeneration Roadmap. Kelly.
What a beautiful place. You're lucky to be here. I also want to say thank you to my colleagues from SC Johnson, Brazil. They're here somewhere. There they are over there. Thank you for joining me today. I bring you good wishes from Racine, Wisconsin. To us, this is summer. So thank you for inviting me here in what we would consider our summer. I want to get started today because Eric said something that's very important, and that is sustainability is part of SC Johnson's DNA. We are excited to be at this conference. I think what Alvaro is doing and with Coan is absolutely amazing, because this effort needs a lot of dialogue. We need to all get out and dialogue about this very important subject, because we need to get action. Eric noted it, but he said that consumers around the world are stuck, and that's true. They're stuck in what we would call second gear when it comes to making sustainable choices. And at our company, we believe that we share in that responsibility to get consumers unstuck and moving forward in the right direction. So the results from the roadmap suggest several ways in which businesses like ours and yours should play a key role in encouraging consumers to make more sustainable choices when they shop for branded goods. But before I get into that, if I could just tell you a little bit about SC Johnson, I would love to do that. We are a 127-year-old family company. I told you our international headquarters are in Racine, Wisconsin. And when the company began in 1886, our only business was making and installing wood floors. That's all we did, wood floors. Talk about sustainability, because the Johnson who ran the company at that time gave everyone a can of paste wax to polish your floors. And they gave that away with every floor that they installed. And so what happened is consumers began to call the company, and they wanted the wax more than they wanted the floor. So flash forward to today. Our company is one of the world's leading providers of home cleaning, storage, insect control, shoe care, and many other products. We employ approximately 13,000 people in 70 countries, including about 400 people here in Brazil. The company is still led by a family member who is my boss, Fis Johnson, who's the chairman and CEO. He is the 5th generation Johnson to ever run the business. And I have to tell you, in case you're wondering, we still do make Johnson's paste wax for wood floors. But our brands are very, very different. And let me show you some of our brands in Brazil. SC Johnson is one of the largest manufacturers of household consumer products in Brazil. We have Off, Toilet Duck, Glade Home Fragrances, Ziploc, Grand Prix Auto Care, among many others. We're proud of our success over the years, but we also take responsibility for making sure that the environment is looked after. Some of our examples. In 1975, our chairman at that time, Sam Johnson, got preliminary research that CFCs were punching a hole through the ozone. Preliminary research, and he put his fist down and he said, we're going to take CFCs out of every one of our products. And we did that well in advance of any government asking us to do so. Moving forward, we have been very responsible in the United States. 20 years ago, we got recycling started for steel aerosol cans. We did that by getting 5,000 communities in the United States, and that was the start of recycling in the United States. That was about 20 years ago, and that was a project I worked on, and I was 9 at the time, but anyway. In 2001, we introduced a program that is very special to us. We have been greening our chemistry for years. Greening our chemistry, because what you put in the product is almost as important as what happens to it when it's recycled or at the end of its life. So we have been greening our chemistry for many, many years. We are one of the leaders, and I will tell you right now, it's a patented process in the United States, but we will license that to any company because we feel so strongly that chemistry needs to be greened with products. So from our ingredients to the way we run our factories to our sponsorship of the Regeneration Project, we are committed to making sure that the world goes forward. So some other things that we have done for our operations, and Eric mentioned it, is incrementalism. And that's right. We cannot solve the environmental problems by incrementalism. But for companies, we always say in the United States that you have to sweep your porch before you sweep your neighbor's porch. So we've been cleaning ourselves up for years because we feel that's our responsibility. So this example is we are actively increasing our use of wind, solar, and other alternative sources of energy. And by doing that over the last several years, we have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 26% globally since 2000. And I just have to tell you a little story. Our largest plant in the world is 2.2 million square feet. Largest factory, big factory. A good kilometer down the main aisle. We are off the grid on that factory with wind and cogen. So we really do try hard to do what's right. We also have been trying to move the industry by concentrates, because why ship water around the world? So we have launched concentrates. Consumers don't prefer concentrates because they think it's hard to add the water, but we're working on it. And my boss, Fitz Johnson, said one day, he said, Kelly, we're just going to launch these things. I don't even care if they're successful. So we launched them, and we're working on it. The other thing that I think is really important is that we are working towards zero landfill, which we define as eliminating all of our waste materials going to landfill from our manufacturing facilities. And we do that by reusing, recycling, and we try never to incinerate. We also have been working very hard in an area that led us to the Regeneration Roadmap. We know, and I know that there's a session today, later on today, we know that without consumer behavior change, we're not going to make the progress we need to make in the world on the environment. So we have partnered with behavior change experts to learn what marketing communications, what messages, what features on products will best incent our consumers to choose more environmentally friendly products. We have been doing this, and we're going to do a 5-year project so that we can make sure that we understand how to get behavior change. Knowing our consumers, what motivates them, what they care about, what drives them to choose one brand over another is essential to us as a business. What we already know about our consumers, validated by the results of the Regeneration Roadmap, is that many of our consumers do care passionately about sustainability, and they want to make socially responsible choices when they shop. But we also know it's not the primary driver of their purchasing decisions, especially in today's recovering but still weakened global economy. Consumers care more about price and performance than they do about the environment or making sustainable choices. If you take a look at this slide, you can see performance and quality is number one. And that's true across all markets that we do research in, but it's particularly true in the developed countries, North America and Europe. In the face of slow growth and weak jobs market, consumers in developed markets see their own pressing economic issues as immediate. So they view the environment as almost secondary or being less urgent than their day-to-day lives. And these are the regions where consumers have become stuck. And we want to work hard to get them unstuck, as I said. Our challenge as a global consumer packaged goods company committed to sustainability is to discover how we can get those consumers to think more about the environment, read up on the products, look at the websites, ask questions. And how do we do that? We don't think we do that by scaring consumers. We don't think that's the right way to go. Now, we could really talk a lot about the impending doom, but as Eric said, we're a company that has optimism, and we're a company that believes that our solutions will come from people like this in the room. So we don't want to scare consumers. We don't think that's right. We want to give consumers a sense of optimism and a sense of way that they can get involved or engaged with this movement. So we think we encourage them with a wider range of choice, offering products that perform well, if not better, and make those products environmentally benign as best as you can. And so that led us to our work with the Regeneration Roadmap. You know, Eric talked about it. We're going to talk about it much more in detail in an afternoon workshop. But we know that we've got a real clue here. And that clue is that there is a group of consumers who are very willing to do some of the things that we need to do. And that huge opportunity is what we call the aspirationals. Eric mentioned it today, but meet the aspirationals. They comprise the largest group of consumers in 3 of the world's most dynamic emerging markets: Brazil, India, and China. And they are natural-born trendsetters. So you're all trendsetting here, probably. Aspirationals in Brazil are an especially promising consumer segment for moving the needle forward on sustainability. Your economy here in Brazil is vibrant. You have a strong democracy, and your consumers care more about protecting the environment than any of the other nations surveyed in the Regeneration Roadmap. That's why it was so important for us to be involved and come here and begin the dialogue here. Let's take a look at some of the statistics. 83% of Brazilians rank environmental concerns as very serious. That's nearly double the 22-country average of just 47%. And the study was done in 22 countries. Aspirational share ideas freely, often using social media. They care about style and looking good. See that? But they also care deeply about buying better and making responsible choices. Aspirationals in Brazil and elsewhere are socially engaged, outgoing, and forward-thinking. So roadmap research reveals that we've got a strong desire for active involvement in communities of shared interests, and they want to play a role in helping solve some of society's most pressing business. So, and there's more. There's a lot more about the roadmap that we've learned. But you'll have to come back this afternoon for our workshop, and where we're going to have a discussion, because as Eric said, we've got a lot more to learn, but we have a real promising nugget that maybe the way to get change is to working with the aspirational group to make that change. So I hope I see you later on today. I thank you once again for this incredibly warm reception, and thank you for having me come to your beautiful city of Rio. Thank you.